Okay, people. Hey guys, how's it going? What's going on? Emperor of Fiction. And in this video, it's been a while since I made a discussion video. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of ran out of things to talk about. You know, I might not. I don't know. The whole Shonen Jump Big 3 review thing. I don't know. It's not working out as well as I originally assumed, so I might not try to do those anymore. But that's not the point. What in this video, because I've seen a lot of like crazy stuff. I've seen and heard a lot of crazy things about the whole reboot with Devil May Cry. And for those of you who know me, all my friends, for those of you who know how much of a fiend for Devil May Cry that I am. You know. So I just want to take the time to give my personal thoughts on the overall series, the overall, Devil May Cry series. Well, not really series, but like, all the games and merchandise and all that good stuff. Well, really just games. Really just all the games of Devil May Cry, and I want to talk about, comparisons between classic and reboot. And before I go into that specifically, I want to say real quick that the reboot DMC that just came out like a while ago, January 15th, the reboot series. Or the reboot, yeah, basically reboot series. It was amazing. It was an amazing game. It really was an amazing game. And most of you are probably gonna, exit out the video, be like, fuck this bullshit, whatever. But bear with me, because I'm gonna give you like basically the layout of why I feel like the reboot series, or the reboot Devil May Cry was so amazing. It's such a good game, and I have really high hopes for it. I hope it goes far. I really hope Capcom decides to do something with this reboot series, because I see its potential. But before I go into comparison about classic and reboot, I'm going to do a little bit of a recap over the classic Devil May Cry series. And the thing with classic is that until 3, the classic Devil May Cry series didn't really like make a solid impact into the hearts of gamers until 3 came out. Until 3. And the reason why I say this is because, one, even though, yeah, in some cases 1 was good for its time, like when it first came out, but looking back, people looking back now who were there when 1 and 2 came out, they know that 1 and 2 really, those were games only good for that time period. Like 1 and 2 were only good for their time period. Devil May Cry really didn't start getting popular until 3 came out. Like 3, and for the longest it was 3. Like 3 is probably the only aspect of the classic series that makes classic so popular. It really is. Like, and right under that would probably be the anime series, which is canon material to the Devil May Cry classic series. But that's beside the point. I mean, and the main gist of what I'm going to say in this video, I'm actually going to go into this now. So okay, so here we go. Classic versus reboot. The thing is, because people are bashing the reboot a lot, mainly because of the fact, well, the main reason why is the character design, which I feel like is really stupid. Like, character design, when it comes to a video game, yeah, character design is what attracts you to the game, but I don't feel like character design plays a big role in, like, how you feel about a game. Like, I mean, come on. Naruto's in an orange jumpsuit, for God's sake. Goku's outfit is so overused, like, not really overused, but like his outfit's like so outplayed that doesn't make any sense. Yet the Dragon Ball game, like the Dragon Ball series as a whole, gets so much hype. But you know, I'm derailing. That's not the point. I really don't feel like character design should play that much of a role in terms of how you feel about a game. Like, the main things that should factor in whether or not a game is good or bad is the story, character interaction, character development, and you know, those are the main three things. Those are the main three things. Oh, and the gameplay, yeah, gameplay, story, gameplay, story, character interaction, and character development. And I really feel like if you're going to compare the Reboot DMC to the classic Devil May Cry series, you can only do that with 2 games. You can only do that with 2 games from the classic series so far. Mainly because this Reboot series only has 1 game. This is the first game for the Reboot series. So you can only compare it to these 2. You can only compare it to, in terms of game releases, you can only compare it to the first Devil May Cry, in which, you know, the Reboot's superior in every way, shape, or form, simply because it's a newer game. And Classic's most popular aspect, like the most popular aspect of the classic Devil May Cry series, which is 3. Now, with 3, here's the thing. I feel like Reboot beats 3, and here's why. Because with classic Devil May Cry, for those of you who have played 3 and actually full on paid attention to its story, because, you know, for those of you who know, the chronological timeline for classic Devil May Cry is the manga 3, 1, the anime 4, and 2. That's the chronological timeline of the classic Devil May Cry series. So, and in terms of the timeline, Reboot DMC did a lot better than Devil May Cry 3. And the main reason why is because in Devil May Cry 3, you know, sure, Virgil was a pretty good developed character. I feel like him and Dante are like the 2 main focal points of 3. So it's like, okay, it's like out of the entire classic series, 3 is the most popular aspect, and within 3, the only 2 characters in 3 that people care about are Dante and Virgil. Lady, Arkham, Jester, the lesser demons, the boss demons, nobody cares about all of them. Nobody does. Nobody cares about all of them. I, of course, am an exception because, you know, I love that game. I love Devil May Cry 3. That game's amazing. But, I feel like in terms of, like, the fanboys, the only 2 characters that people care about are Dante and Virgil. And when it comes to Dante and Virgil, yeah, they're well-developed characters in terms of, like, you know, action, like we want to see a fight. But outside of that, in terms of a story, in terms of telling a story, Dante and Virgil are pretty overrated and cliche characters when it comes to telling a story. Because, I mean, you know, the whole my older brother wanting power, being a more skilled fighter than me, and, you know, being all mysterious and whatnot, the silent stoic type, well, not really silent stoic, but like the stoic, like, craving for power type, that's been done before. And with Dante, the whole I'm the main character, laid back, kind of do what needs to be done, have fun about it attitude, that's been done before as well. And the reason why that kind of plays into why classic Dante and Virgil are cliche characters, because, like, a lot of, in terms of telling a story, like, in terms of their powers and abilities, they're very interesting characters. Like, they're very well developed characters in terms of their powers and abilities. But in terms of telling a story, they're really cliche. And the fanboys, and some girls too, because there are some girls that I suspect in the same way, they need to kind of get over the fact that this reboot's going to happen, or this reboot has happened, and it's ready for liftoff. It's ready for liftoff, and I can't wait. I can't wait for a sequel. I can't wait to see what Capcom does, like what Capcom does with this reboot in the future. I can't wait. But the reason why I feel like they're overrated, like classic Dante and Virgil are overrated, is because, and it's the same reason why a lot of characters from video games, anime, and comics get overrated. It's simply because they got too big. Like, Dante and Virgil just got too big. Classic Dante and Virgil, they got too big. The only reason why people enjoy, the only reason why people liked playing 4 was because Dante was in it. It was because Dante was in it. That's one of the only 2 reasons why I'm pretty sure people liked playing 4, was either because Dante was in it, or for people that were into voice actors a lot, like, you know, me and my friends are. Johnny Young Bosch voice acted Nero. So that's the only reason why people like playing 4. But it kind of, and the reason why I bring it up is because it kind of falls into Dante being overrated. Dante and Virgil, like, they've been overused in so many different things, it's like not even funny. All the merchandise, all the cameo appearances that they've made in different TV shows, skits. Oh man, the video game, you know, Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Oh god, don't even start on Marvel vs. Capcom 3. If you play online, like 75 to like 80% of the people who you see play online will have Dante in their team, and that's because Dante, he's a top tier character in that game. Hence further strengthening the argument that him and Virgil are overrated. So that's the thing with that. Like, you can only, if you're going to compare classic to reboot, you can only go with, like, you really can only compare it to 3 and 1, because in terms of game releases, it's the first game of the reboot series. Just like Devil May Cry 1 was the first game of the classic Devil May Cry series. So, and in terms of classic Devil May Cry 1 against reboot Devil May Cry 1, in that category, in terms of game releases, reboot's got it, because it's a newer game with faster pacing gameplay and, you know, superior graphics and all that good stuff. So, and if you want to compare it in terms of like story, you can only do that with 3, because 3 is the beginning. In terms of the game releases themselves, 3 is the beginning of the classic Devil May Cry story. Just like with the reboot Devil May Cry, DMC is the first part, or is the beginning of the reboot Devil May Cry series. So, and in that regard, Reboot had better and more character interaction, a farther in-depth story in terms of Dante and Virgil. Like, there was more background story in terms of those 2 characters, and better character interaction between Dante and Virgil in the Reboot DMC. And on a psychological level, while DMC didn't do so well in terms of character design for Reboot Dante and Virgil, on a psychological level, on a mental level, in terms of character development, they do Reboot Dante and Virgil are superior to Classic in that regard on a psychological level, from a psychological standpoint, and on a mental level, because throughout the game, throughout Reboot DMC, sure, okay. Well, before I do that, before I say that, sure, in classic Devil May Cry, with Devil May Cry 3, you see like the transition in terms of like Dante and Lady. You see their character development on a mental level in terms of Dante going from I could care less to now I kind of care, and Lady from I hate all demons to some demons are good and some are evil. In Virgil, not so much. There wasn't so much development on a mental scale with Virgil. He already knew what he wanted, and he went after it no matter what. Even when it came down to fighting Arkham and helping his brother, in the end, he was still like, well, I still want more power, because I want to be the strongest demon in existence. I want to rule over the demon world. But, yeah, you see character progression on a mental level in the classic series, but the character progression on the psychological and mental level that Reboot has right now, or in terms of like the first game, like in terms of like the first part of the timeline for the Reboot. Reboot, Dante, Virgil, and Cat, actually a little bit of Cat too. They've surpassed classic Dante, Virgil, and Lady by leaps and by bounds. By leaps and bounds. It doesn't make any sense. It's just that, like, I'm really tired of hearing, these weak-ass arguments against DMC as to why, oh, it's such a crappy game, look at how Dante and Virgil look, really, like, come on, that's your sound argument for why DMC is a horrible game, because of its character design, and because of the fact that it's not the same and has no relation in what way, shape, or form to classic. That's your argument? That's your argument. That's a bad game. Not its gameplay, not its character development, not its story overall. And you can't compare its story or character development to the entire DMC series, because it's only the first game. That's what people need to realize. And I'm gonna let you on a little secret. I want people to know that the reason why Capcom didn't do a 5th game for the classic series and decided to go with the Reboot instead, here's why. The reason why is because if classic Devil May Cry had got a 5th game, it would have been garbage. It literally would have been garbage. Utter shit. And the reason why is because with the 5th game, there would have been no story whatsoever. Its story would have been they would have pulled so much ass with they would have pulled out so much shit. They would have pulled so much shit out of their ass with the story. Fucking stutter. Shit. They would have pulled so much shit out of their ass with the 5th game, like with a 5th classic Devil May Cry game, that it would have been so ridiculous, because the end of the series, the end of the classic Devil May Cry series is 2. 2 is the period on the Devil May Cry series. Why? Because Dante sacrifices himself to seal off the demon world from the human world forever. He does that. Sure, people can argue that, oh, well, you hear his motorcycle at the end of 2, so he probably got out. And here's the problem with that. Because people want to say, well, Sparta can do it, so maybe Dante can do it too. You never know. They could pull bullshit out of their ass like that. Here's the problem with that, though. Dante and Virgil can't perform feats that Sparta did. They just can't. They can't. What happened at the end of 3? Virgil goes up to Mundus and says, well, Sparta can beat you, so I should be able to beat you too. And what happens to Virgil? He gets one-shotted. He gets one-shotted. Dante, who in terms of skill and power, like based on when Virgil was alive, in terms of skill and power, Dante was a weaker character. Dante was a weaker character than Virgil. He really was. The only reason why you beat Virgil at the end of 3 is because Virgil, like in terms of the story, obviously not gameplay because it takes your skill to beat him in terms of the actual gameplay, but in terms of the story, like when it comes to the story, the only reason why Dante beat Virgil was because he was so worn out from going up the Timonic Group and not having time to rest when he had to do all these battles to get to the top of the Timonic Group and go inside the demon world. That's the only reason why you beat him. But full strength, like based on both of the characters at full strength, Virgil is a superior character in terms of, you know, strength and skill as a fighter. So, but I mean, like, they wouldn't have been able to do anything with the Spartan. Well, yeah, the main gist of my argument is that, you know, or the main gist of this whole section of my discussion is that Dante and Virgil can perform feats they cannot perform feats that Sparta did. They can't. So Dante escaping out of the demon world, it wasn't going to happen. It wasn't going to happen. If Classic got a fifth game, the only thing they could have done was either make it to where you're inside the demon world and Dante's like basically the Demon King, which would have made his character do a complete 360, or no, 180. It would have made his character do a complete 180 because Dante doesn't care about being the Demon King. He doesn't care about ruling the demon world. Dante's job was to protect humans from the demon realm, and he completed that job at the end of 2 by sealing off the demon realm from the human world forever. So yeah, that would have been bullshit if they did that, which would have made that game shitty. Lucretia being a main character could have been possible for a 5th game, but if that was the case, if that would have happened, it would have kind of derailed from the whole idea of Devil May Cry to begin with, because it would have had nothing to do with Sparta or Dante. So yeah, like Capcom, they made the right call in rebooting it. They made the right call because people need to realize that the classic Devil May Cry series has its period. It's finished. 2 finishes the classic Devil May Cry series, and on a good note at that. On a good note. 3 and 4, because you see, people go with game releases in terms of telling a story, when in truth, if you don't read up on Devil May Cry like I did, you wouldn't know. So 3 and 4 just filled in blanks. That's all 3 and 4 did. That's why the only aspects of 3 and 4 that make them hype is gameplay and character design. Those are the only aspects of 3 and 4 that make them hype. People wanted sequels to those without realizing that these were prequels. They just filled in blanks. These were prequels to 1 and 2. They didn't realize they were going backwards. So, you know, 3 being a prequel to 1, 4 being a prequel to 2. People don't realize that there can't be a 5th classic game because the story is done. The classic Devil May Cry story is done. So, and Capcom realized this, so they made the right call in rebooting the series. They knew that they were going to get stuttering again. Sorry guys, I get really passionate when it comes to these kind of things. But Capcom, they knew that they were going to get a lot of negative flack for making this reboot, but they didn't care. You want to know why? Because there are people like me who can see why they made the reboot, why they did it. I see it, I understand it, and I enjoy it. I fucking love it. I love it. So, yeah. That's basically the whole gist of my argument, or argument slash opinion in terms of, classic versus reboot. Don't get me wrong. Throughout this entire video, don't feel like, or don't look at me like, oh well, fuck this guy, he's bullshit. He's all about the reboot gay ass series, and he's a classic hater. I enjoyed the classic series. I really did. Or I still do. Actually, yeah, I have the entire classic series in my room right now, and I'm going through that series right now as we speak. I fucking love it. It's amazing because it's a great story. But like every story, it has an ending, and people need to realize that. That's why Capcom rebooted DMC, because the classic series had an ending. People need to realize that. And what's making me so mad about Classic versus Reboot is that people don't realize that. So now I have to point out Classic's flaws in order to get people to see why Capcom did the reboot. I need people to understand. I need all of you to understand that Classic, the Classic Devil May Cry story is finished. And it ended on a really good note. Don't ruin its name, please, by all means, for the love and grace of Mary and Joseph. Please don't ruin the classic Devil May Cry series name by fangasming all over it, because that'll ruin it for a lot of people who care about a story like me, and who understand that, well, its story had an ending, and the reboot is actually pretty good. The reboot's pretty good. So it was worth like the $62.95 I pre-ordered for it. It was worth that money. It was worth every goddamn penny. So that's the main thing. Like I'm so tired of hearing negative flack on the reboot when people don't understand. They don't understand. You just don't get it. And everything I said in this video is the main gist of why you don't get it. So I'm done. I'm pretty much done with this whole rant about classic versus reboot. And I'm gonna put links down in the description below. Well, not links, but I'm gonna put a link down in the description below showing people the chronological timeline of the classic Devil May Cry series if I can, because I feel like people need to know that Classic had an ending. Classic ending. 3 and 4 just filled in blanks in terms of the story Devil May Cry. In terms of the classic story of Devil May Cry, 3 and 4 just filled in blanks. The only reason why 3 and 4 get hype, people get hype about 3 and 4, not particularly 1 and 2, is because 3 and 4 have, in terms of like comparing 1 and 2 to 3 and 4, 3 and 4 have superior gameplay and graphics, and that's what people liked. People appeal to what they see, and they really liked what they saw in 3 and 4. So that's why it got so much hype, and they were like, oh, they're going to do a sequel for this, right? Yeah! Not knowing that 3 and 4 were prequels to 1 and 2. People don't know that. So that's really the main gist of why they're looking at this reboot sideways. But yeah, I'm fucking up. I'm done. I'm done with this rant. I need people to know why, all their fangasm over classic. It's like I needed people to know that their way of thinking in terms of Devil May Cry was flawed. For all of you who give the reboot series negative flack, I had to defend it. I had to defend Reboot because it's a good game. It really is. The story is amazing, and I just need people to know. And another thing I didn't touch on, the whole thing with Virgil using a gun. You have to realize that in the classic series, Virgil was more of a prideful and skilled Like Virgil's goal was to gain power. His goal was to become the strongest demon in existence with his own power. The thing with Reboot Virgil is, Reboot Virgil, while he's not as skilled of a fighter as classic Virgil was, on a psychological and mental level, he's on par, if not greater. He's on par, if not greater, on a mental and psychological level. He's the leader of a rebel. He's the leader of a rebel group, of a freedom fighter group. So when you're a leader of a group like that, a terrorist organization, which they were basically called in the game, when you're a leader of that, you need to use brains, brawn, and resources. Weapons are part of those resources. If Virgil would have stuck to his whole "I don't use guns, I only use sword" things, which is funny because when him and Dante were kids in the original fucked up. Classic. When Dante and Virgil were kids in the classic Devil May Cry series, he did use a gun before they went their separate way, before they got separated from their mother. He did use a gun. He would use guns when him and Dante were kids. But you see, that's the problem with classic. They don't tell you that. They don't tell you that. They hint at it at the end of 3, but they don't specifically tell you that even though Virgil only uses swords, doesn't use guns, now, when he was a kid, that wasn't the case. People wouldn't know that in case they read it up. But, that's the last thing I wanted to touch on before I go. So, I'm done. If you like the discussion video, like, subscribe, do whatever. If you dislike, you're probably going to post retarded comments in the section below. I don't care. It's whatever. I really need to voice my opinion. I really needed to voice my opinion and defend Reboot DMC. I needed to. This is something I needed to do. So I'm pretty much done. I'm probably gonna get a lot of flack. I'm probably gonna get a lot of negative flack from some of my subscriptions. But I'm ready to go at it in a debate. I'm ready. So if you want to debate with me in terms of classic versus reboot, by all means, we can go on Google Hangout and you'll just bring it. So don't come on there with no fanboy bullshit. I want you to bring it. I'm calling everybody out, so I'll see you guys later.